welcome.
Hi, everyone. Should we give everyone a few minutes just to join, I guess,
Yeah, we have a few people rolling in, so we'll just give everyone a minute or two and then we'll get started. Okay, we have a few people joining.
Hi, Abdul.
Hi, Abdul. We do have a private chat, so unfortunately only Ilsa and I can see your messages, but feel free to talk to us. We're just giving everyone a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Hi,
Love all the highs, thank you. Yeah, by all means, report that you're here. It's nice to hear from you, to get to know our audience. Should we start, Denny? What do you think?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, let's get started. Looks like we have a few people in. All right, so officially, hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Is your FP&A team ready for AI? We're very excited to have you all here, whether you're joining us live or maybe watching a replay. Thanks for taking the time to explore this topic with us.
Yes, welcome from my side too. I'm also excited to discuss this topic with you because AI, it's one of those buzzwords that's been floating around for a while now. But today we want to make it real for you. And we've put a lot of effort into researching it and just breaking it down for all the FP&A professionals out there. And what we found, it's not about complex algorithms or coding or understanding all of that. It's just to understand how AI can actually make our day-to-day work easier and more impactful.
Yeah, so we want to keep this session casual and conversational, kind of like a podcast you'd maybe listen to on a coffee break. So grab a drink and get comfortable, and we'll dive in. Just a few housekeeping items, by the way, I already mentioned, but the chat is private, so it's feeding directly to Ilsa and I, so unfortunately you can't talk to everyone. But please, if you have questions throughout the session, do type them in, and we'll be sure to follow up with you individually after the webinar. So yeah, before we get started, Ilsa, let's introduce ourselves.
Okay, sure thing. I'll start and let me just get also a quick slide up with us. So I'm Ilse Meyer. I'm a partner at BIOS Management. I've been working in the FP&A space for 15 years, first in banking in FP&A, and then I moved to consulting. And what I wanted to share with you today is that I truly have always found myself excited by optimization, and it literally steered my career into the roles I took. So I always found myself helping teams and companies to move from spending hours on manual processes towards a more streamlined process, which empowers them to truly use their data for decision making. And with AI being such a game changer to support just that, I'm really curious to see how that informs my career in the coming years. And I'm happy to unpack a part of that with you today.
And I am Annie Bashlari. I am a senior manager at BIOS Management. So from my side, having been in the consulting space for over 10 years now, I've spent a lot of time in the trenches working with FP&A teams. We've moved financial models from spreadsheets to modern FP&A tools. And that also means I've become pretty familiar with all the challenges that teams face and also how technology can solve them. So from my side, it's pretty exciting to talk to you about how another tool like AI can help your day-to-day.
Yeah. So, oops, I went too far. So here's what you can expect today. Very simple agenda. We've done an introduction and we'll shortly do a poll with you. Then we'll start to talk about what AI is at its core and why it matters for the FP&A world right now. We'll then jump into a software demonstration that have AI incorporated in their offering. And then finally, we wrap up with a framework to help you assess your team's readiness for AI, just like the title of the webinar promises. And also just to point out the safe harbor statement, just to get the legalities out the way. But first, okay, let's tell you a bit about Bios Management, where we work. Bios Management is a boutique consultancy. We've been around for over 20 years. We're very proud to be international in the last 5 years, and we now have 10 head offices in almost all the continents of the world. So you can see the offices where we are located there in the bottom left of the slide. We specifically deliver advisory services related to digital solutions and transformations, a lot of it in the finance space. So yeah, that's naturally why AI is so front of mind for us at the moment.
Thanks, Ilse. And as she mentioned, before we get into things even deeper, we'd like to ask you where you are in your AI adoption journey. So with that said, we're going to kick off a poll now, and we'll give everyone a moment and we can have a look at the results together. So please, you should see a poll question. Yeah, we can see some answers rolling in.
Yeah, so it's just telling us if you have no plans at all for AI, or if you start exploring it, or perhaps you're doing some small experiments, or perhaps you're in a company where you already have AI in production. Those are the 4 options.
Love to hear more about the live use cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to chat us over details as well, and we can always follow up too. Okay, give a couple more seconds here for the audience to answer.
Yeah, but see, 60% of the audience have answered, so I'm sure it's not. Give a little bit more time.
Okay, and looks like everyone can see the answers as well. It's a good little spread. Okay, should we cap it there, Elsa?
Yeah, I'm happy. It seems like we have a winner.
So that's okay, a little bit more answers coming in. So it looks like almost half of you have already started small AI experiments and pilots, and nearly up there, some of you are in your planning, exploring stage. So that's very interesting. And then that's great. 2 have already use cases in production, and some have no plans to start at all. So yeah, a pretty good spread. And actually, I think it lines up a little bit similarly to our research.
Yeah, what we've got here is a chart from Gartner. They surveyed 130 companies with a similar type of question. If you look at the options there, it's from having no planned AI implementation to also having it in production. So we took some inspiration from that. And when I read the chart, I thought there's 2 takeaways that I would take from it. The one is that it is quite spread out. There is a fifth of the companies out there don't have any plans on AI implementation, and also a fifth are already using it in production. So clearly it is quite spread out at the moment. So at least if you're not using it, you're a company, wherever you are on the spectrum.
It'll be interesting to see next year if we have the same audience, what that 7% will jump to next year, to see basically if the trend keeps going up.
Yeah, that is so true. Because we see it in this graph as well. What stood out to me and Annie is that between 2023 and 2024, asking these same companies, the line of using AI in production went from 8% to 20%. So that's quite a noticeable increase. And I think that speaks to the trend out there and the speed at which we're all expecting to start to see AI and use it in our daily lives.
Yeah, cool. So I think we can get into breaking down what it all means.
Oh, yes, please. So I was thinking today it would be helpful to demystify the AI terminologies so that everyone listening can leave this webinar feeling confident to have a conversation around AI. I want you to be able to talk to your colleagues about it, or even your boss. If he asks you, he or she, what are we doing? We should bring more AI in. You can have a conversation, and maybe after today's conversation, you'll even be able to explain to him you're already doing it, because there's some interesting examples we have, which, yeah, a lot of the FP&A teams out there are already doing.
Yeah, so with that said, let's start with the broad one, artificial intelligence, also known as AI. All it is a way of making computers do things that normally require human intelligence. It's about teaching machines to recognize patterns, make decisions, and solve problems using data.
I love that definition. Just computers do things that normally requires human intelligence. It's well said. Yeah, this is the umbrella term, right? But then within that, there are different subsets. And Annie, I think we'll explain those now, right?
Yeah. So within AI, the next subset is machine learning, probably another word that you've heard frequently. And this is where the computer learns from data instead of being explicitly programmed. Okay, so imagine you're creating a forecast. With machine learning, the system looks at historical data, things like sales, expenses, seasonality, and pretty much learns patterns over time. So the more data you give it, the better it becomes at predicting.
So when I heard this definition, I thought to myself, well, that does not sound that different to what we have been doing in FP&A for many years. When we're doing budgeting and planning, specifically things like sales forecasts, we sometimes do some pretty legit statistical forecasting or linear regression models to bring seasonality in and trends. And it is true that machine learning is not too different. So that's one of the ones you can tell your boss you're already doing. But machine learning is extra powerful. It makes it easier to bring in other external factors like weather trends or economic indicators. It also has the benefit that it can assess exactly what the right statistical method is for your data set, without you having to know the theory and the knowledge and trying all the different ways. So it just speeds up the tasks and makes it more accessible for everyone, to be honest.
Yeah, and I love the fact that it's just more adaptable. It adapts with your data as the data set keeps growing. Then, so within machine learning, then we get, let's say, to the next level, and that's deep machine learning, which is a more advanced form of machine learning that mimics how the human brain works. And it does this by using layers of algorithms called neural networks. It's very good at analyzing very large data sets, very complex data sets, and then finding the subtle patterns within.
Okay, so in FP&A, some use cases for deep learning is like detecting fraud in financial transactions because it is so good at finding the patterns. Or a nice new field, which we'll also demo later, is to analyze unstructured data like customer reviews and then to predict the changes in sentiment from the customer and how that might impact your revenue. So the correlation as well. So really some interesting analysis there. But you know what's interesting as well about deep learning, as smart as it is, it can't do math. So us human FP&A specialists have an advantage there. And yeah, just to explain why that is, that's because the deep learning is based on training data. So it's always guessing the most correct answer. So if you ask it what 1 + 1 is, it'll say too, because there's enough examples of that out there on the internet or probably in data. But when you get to really big numbers, it'll start to make a few more errors. So keep that in mind.
We're still smarter, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last one, I'm sure no one's heard of this. Generative AI. So this is a newer branch of AI that doesn't just analyze data, but now it's pretty much creating new content, and that's all based on what it's learned. And then there is actually another smaller circle within there, and that's called large language models. And this is what's allowed AI to understand and generate human-like text. And this is probably why all the excitement and buzz has been around AI in the recent years. And it's made it accessible to everyone. That large language model component is what's made chatbots like ChatGPT or Dolly or some ones you've probably heard of. That's what makes them feel so conversation and human-like.
And yeah, applying that to FP&A, because it's not just numbers we're talking about. This is where Gen AI can help us draft reports, write narratives for your dashboards and management accounts, and you know how time consuming those are. Or very exciting, also it can even simulate different financial scenarios for you based on your input that you give in a language, you know. So yeah, the world out there is, instead of spending hours crafting the executive summary for your budget report, a Gen AI tool could create a first draft for you. But importantly, Enya and I believe, then the next step is for you to refine. Yeah, we'll show you some of these Gen AI tools in the demo as well.
Okay, and the last but not least is automation. So technically, it is outside of the AI umbrella, let's say, but we think that this is really important to include because it is needed to tie everything together. It basically allows us to bring the benefits of AI into a process that's usable.
Yeah, and that's because automation follows predefined rules to perform repetitive tasks. So examples might be automating the process of consolidating your monthly reports, or sending email reminders, or generating dashboards that get sent out to your sales managers. Yeah, things like that. So a lot of us already see that in our workplace. But where it's different to the other AI items is it doesn't think or learn, it just executes tasks efficiently.
So having said all this, let's dive into the big question. Why does AI matter? And why is it particularly relevant for FP&A? So Ilse, I think it's fair to say that it's popping up everywhere, right? It's the buzzword.
Yeah, it's everywhere. But what I find interesting, if you think about it, is that finance specifically is one of those fields that's almost perfectly suited for AI. If you think about it, finance deals with tons of data, often using technology for that already. We're constantly pulling in numbers from different sources. Then we're trying to make sense of it all. And then we're using those insights to help our organizations plan and grow and make decisions, right? It's a lot to handle. It can get quite complex. And those are exactly the tasks where AI can really shine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a great way to think about it. And I think we'll probably say this a few times throughout. It's not about replacing FP&A teams. It's about enhancing what we already do. And if it's done correctly, it can really be an enabler for all teams to become more self-sufficient and effective.
It's such a great resource, isn't it? Of course, we already have accessible resources like Google, which is also a great resource. But the difference with Gen AI for me is that it gives us these really customized, relevant answers to our questions. Like, I imagine having an encyclopedia on hand with an answer to every question and permutation you can think of. It's really that powerful.
Exactly. And managers especially will love this, but I think that not knowing how to do something is no longer an excuse, right? So Gen AI, it gives us a tool to brainstorm, We get that first answer, and then we can tailor it based on our feedback. It gives us a baseline to work off of, and then we can enhance it with a human touch, like working with your team or working with your managers. So it should really help the way that we work.
Yeah, and it promises to save a lot of time, right? Because teams will also become more confident just to use the baseline that Gen AI produced. Yeah, just that whole where do I start thing is maybe not so part of our lives anymore. And actually, it makes me think of a question I always like to ask candidates during an interview. I always like to ask something like this. So, say I would ask, okay, you are asked to create a cash flow forecast. You've never done it before. What do you do? So, it's a tricky question. Some candidates focus on the cash flow portion a lot. Yeah, all kinds of things. But the question doesn't have a right answer. I just asked it because I like to hear how people think and what their way of work is. And actually, I always listened out for people who would say they Google it. And then that would be a good indication because I think, okay, they're resourceful. They use the resources at hand. Now, today, I'd expect candidates to be confident in consulting Gen AI and saying that they use that so that they know how to do something, right? So, yeah, but even more than that, if you ask ChatGPT these days to help you create something like your CV, something really simple, it's it's not anymore because you're lazy or don't know how. I mean, we all were taught how to do CVs and we've done it for years. The paradigm shift of the day is if you're doing that, it's because you're actually smart, resourceful, and you have a desire to be efficient. So as a manager, I'm also learning that to see ChatGPT as a useful resource. Yeah, and when the teams use it, I applaud it.
Definitely, exactly. So I think what we're trying to say and overall is it's not just about using Gen AI. The sweet spot really is those who use it, they bring in their own flavor to it, and they bring in their own skill set of discretion. That's where that magic will happen. And it's fundamentally already changing how we work.
I love that you mentioned the discretion, right? Very important to take what we find from Gen AI and deciding what we can use and what's appropriate to our situation. So with that, I think we can move on to demos.
Yes. Okay. So here we go. I think everyone can see that. We'd like to kick off the demo portion by showing you some of Board's new AI-related features. For those not familiar, Board is an intelligent planning platform where you can plan for all different types of use cases, including financial planning, operational planning, retail planning, and really all types of different things. In our example today, we're focusing on a typical P&L dashboard. And the first AI feature is called Board Insights. For any object on the dashboard, we can interact with Board's chatbot who can provide answers to our questions. So here it comes with a preset list of questions, or you can ask it anything you want. We'll pick this one to start off with that asks us to provide P&L insights and suggestions on how to improve the EBIT. We can see a comprehensive answer here, and it's based on the analysis that it's done. Okay, still generating an answer.
And amazing how much it has to say, huh?
It's got a lot to say, right? So if we review it here, we can see actually, I know it's a little bit quick, but we can see that there's a lot of qualitative and quantitative analysis based on our data set, right? So it's integrated with our data. And if we want to continue the analysis, we can take one of these suggestions highlighted here, and you can keep breaking it down into more questions about it. And that's how you can get to keep unlocking the value. Just keep on drilling and drilling, asking it to break that answer down even more. And then more or less, you can come up with a fully actionable plan.
Okay, that's a great tip. So it's always good to keep drilling, keep asking until you get the customized answer to your liking, right?
Exactly. So flipping over to the balance sheet here, we can interact with the chatbot in a similar way. here, we can even incorporate external data. Okay, so this is really powerful stuff. And this now basically takes our analysis to the next level. We're asking it to calculate the company's debt to equity ratio and then compare it with the industry average. So not only is it telling us how to do it, it's calculating it for us and then benchmarking it against industry data. And then it even provides some actionable recommendations. So this stuff is really, really in next level for insights and recommendations.
I love that it compares it to a industry benchmark.
Yeah, think about all the time saved there.
And just extra insight, yeah. Are you ready for the next video?
Let's do it.
Okay, assisted planning and board.
So this one, board assisted planning, it's also very exciting for FP&A teams. In this example, so let's say that I'm a planner responsible for a demand forecast. I've already prepared my 3 scenarios there. And I've used different assumptions to create all of these 3 different scenarios. I can see the volume, revenue, and net margin for the 3 scenarios detailed out by product. But now I want to figure out how to get the optimal scenario. So I use this assistant for me. We can ask it to run the analysis and identify the optimal scenario. The first output here is fine, but it's not giving me exactly what I had in mind. So we can tweak the prompt and ask it again to give us the best scenario per region instead that provides the most favorable analysis. Look at that.
Okay. So yeah, it's not that different that we do as humans compare the results of different scenarios, but this surely does speed things up a bit.
Yeah, no, exactly. And once we get to the ideal assumptions, we ask it to generate that scenario for us. So now we can see that 4th scenario that's been AI generated. I can review the newly generated scenarios. Here are all the numbers. And then let's say that everything looks good. I can now go back and submit this back into my planning process. So now it incorporates back into my workflow planning. And just like that, we have this 4th scenario created that's part of my planning dashboard. And the thing is, we could have definitely gotten here to this conclusion ourselves. It's just about what we were saying earlier. It's about making work more effective. Instead of spending all of that time doing the analysis yourself and drilling into the right level of detail, we can quickly ask for insights and get to that answer much quicker.
Great. Good job.
So yeah, yeah, it's very good. But with that said, yeah, that's a little sneak peek about Board's AI features. Now over to Ilsa.
Okay. Yeah, I have the pleasure of showing you a few AI features of Power BI. There are many. I've picked 4, and they're really quick snippets. So yeah, pay attention. The good news of the Power BI things, it's free to download, and I found it very intuitive. So you can start using some of these immediately, and I hope some of you are inspired to do just that. I'll start with the easiest one, which we've just launched. It's Microsoft Copilot. Some of you may have heard of it. I was shocked how easy it was to set up. I created a new agent. I'm actually just going to pause where I'm just going a bit fast now. I created a new agent. That's like my own little, maybe I shouldn't say ChatGPT, but it's like a ChatGPT bot. And then what I'm showing here is that I linked it to our SharePoint to a specific, I'll pause again there. Sorry, I was linking it to a SharePoint before, where we have all our documents on how we run projects and things like that. And it was very simple. I then opted to link it to Teams and to use a Teams chat as the front end, which we're showing here. So now me or any of my team can start using it, and we can query the bot. In this case, we're asking the bot to summarize a document. So that speeds up a lot of time from reading it yourself, opening it. You could just ask and get the summary. But I was thinking for FP&A, it could also be really cool to put your budget timeline or any internal process in a bot like this for teams to ask, that frequently asked questions type of thing.
Yeah, and I think the really neat thing about this is that it's already integrated with Teams, and we already spend so much time in there that it's just an easy little feature there.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, the next one, just pause for everyone's brain to catch up. Wait, yeah. So the next one is also super useful. It's about these AI that write narratives for you, right? So this is what it does right here. We've got a dashboard. You can still interact with the dashboard like you always expect to. You can select, and then the commentary on the right-hand side updates. Typical commentary like you would write yourself for management reporting. But even cooler, look how easy it is to ask for an object. I saw this and I thought, gone are the days of adding a chart object yourself or a table. Just with a simple phrase, you can get any graph you want. Like here, it's typing the measures by transactions, then the dimensions you want to look at it. So it's saying by business type. And there you go, new chart. And if then maybe you see that's a bit busy, you'd like to rather see it in a pivot style table, you just type in a matrix and then you see this table. Instantly you have a table created. And the base part of it, it's a live object. So you can keep expanding and analyzing and drilling on it, to understand your data. So I definitely think this would save a lot of time for FP&A folks out there.
It's very interactive as well.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is the key influencer object. It's as quick to set up as the others, but with really useful analysis, a bit different to what we usually see. Like the previous one was what we're all doing, management reporting, so it's cool to see, but I think this is quite unique, the angle they took on it. So I just want to explain what it's doing. So at the top, it says what influences profitability to be earning. Now that can be changed to what can contribute a loss as well. So if you look at that, you will see all your sales transactions that are resulting in a loss and chipping away at your profitability. So look at that. Apparently on the product category bikes, you're more likely to create a loss. And then it ranks all contributors from different dimensions, maybe even what region is carrying more of a loss there. And it can compare it to the other segments to see how those perform. Then there's a top segments area that goes a level deeper. It's very interesting. It breaks again everything into the segments. And here you would see, so bikes in the Southeast, they've seen contribute to a loss most. So, and it actually said of all the bike transactions in the Southeast, 23.8% of them are resulting in a loss. And knowing that, instead of you having to go through all the manual transactions, you can then see that and go deeper into what those transactions are and take corrective action. So yeah, that's the key influencers and top segments one. Okay, and the last one finally is to show you a sentiment analysis. So just look at this functionality. It's so different to what we usually do. It analyzes text to find the sentiment. So this is the one where companies need to start getting organized on capturing reviews and Twitter feeds, all kinds of data sources you wouldn't have considered using before. You can really get creative now. So the software has a text analytics function that reads the text and gives it a score called score sentiment. It generates a number from 0 to 1, 1 being positive sentiment. From this, you can add further columns, like using standard Power BI functionality, sure, but you can use it to enhance your data set and interpret the score. So what we're doing here is very simply categorizing the score as either positive, negative, or neutral. And we check the validity of the data, which is also a neat function they have in Power BI to see that this formula I just wrote is that all the results are within range as you would expect. So no more errors there. And all this can then go into a dashboard. Great looking one, I might add. So now it's just taking a moment to load all the data that we just manipulated to bring that in. And you can see from that the data presented over time and how the sentiment changes over time, the breakdown of, luckily this company has mostly positive sentiment. And what I also really liked is the keywords at the top. It catches the words that are used most frequently by the customers and categorizes it on that top, with the reseller being the word most used and whatever that means here. But yeah, I also thought that's quite a smart feature.
Awesome. No, it's the products are really great, and I think yeah, everyone's probably really interested to see more about those. But it's very interesting to see what everyone's coming out with. So we've looked at all these great tools like Board and Power BI, but I think it's also important to talk about what it means to be ready to adopt it. So we go back here. Yeah, so how to assess if you're ready, because the reality is it is a tool and it's only as powerful as the environment that you give it. So to really benefit from it, I think we have to take a step back and think about what we've categorized as 3 different areas, and that's data, people, and of course, technology. So starting with data.
Yeah, okay, I'll explain. So I heard of a good analogy that you can think of AI like a chef. And I think we all agree that the result of a chef's food or the dishes are only as good as the ingredients you provide. So data can be seen as that ingredient. And while many organizations have plenty of it, not all of it is usable for AI and therefore might not create the dish you want. So we're going to talk a bit about how you can change that.
Yes, and AI thrives on data that's clean, consistent, and connected. But in reality, as we see on a lot of our projects, a lot of people are dealing with data silos. So perhaps the sales data might be in a CRM system, the revenue data in an ERP, and then maybe the expense details are scattered throughout Excel. And the truth is, when the data isn't integrated very well, then AI won't be able to perform at its best either.
And it's not just about accessing the data in one platform, it's about the quality, as we've said. So if there are errors in your data, like say duplicate entries or incorrect classifications, the sad truth is AI could quite possibly amplify those mistakes. Yeah, you've probably heard of the phrase garbage in, garbage out. That's also very true for AI.
Yes, but I mean, if the data isn't quite there yet, it is a process, so don't worry. And the key is to start small, focus on cleaning and centralizing one data set at a time, even. And then another thing to consider is that depending on your organization's capacity, this is also an area where you might want to consider getting external help. Lots of great consultancies out there, BIOS management included. So feel free to reach out and let us know if that can be helpful to you as well. Okay, and then we also want to talk a little about people, because this is key. Even though AI might feel like such a technical topic, it really is about empowering your team, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to interpret, question, and act on those outputs. So their readiness is crucial.
You know, and the point is, it's not about hiring a team of data scientists or anything like that. No, what you need are team members who are curious, open to learning, and comfortable with change. You know, human beings are typically not that comfortable with change, but we also talk about how you can help to overcome that. And it's important to always stress AI isn't here to replace FP&A professionals. It's here to make their jobs easier and more impactful.
Certainly. For example, like if we take variance analysis, the AI tool might flag those anomalies very quickly and a lot faster than you can, but it's still up to the person to dig into the why and the storytelling and all that. So at the end of the day, the human intuition and the storytelling is where everything comes in.
Yeah. I mean, it's normal for people to feel a little hesitant about AI. I think I was definitely that at the beginning. They might be worried it's too complex or take over the roles. So, as leaders, it's important to position AI as a tool that supports, not replaces their expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. And then training as well. It doesn't have to be this big thing. It's could be as small as even everyone getting a basic understanding of AI. That can go a long way. It doesn't have to be very technical. It's just about demystifying it.
Yeah, and I think we've mentioned, but leadership buy-in really does matter. So if the team sees that the leadership is committed to adopting AI and investing in their growth, they will feel more comfortable embracing these changes.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's probably a good, let's say, concepts to think about people. And I think, of course, we can't not talk about technology. So let's say you have your clean data ready and a team ready to go. You still need to find the right tools to bring it all together,
Yeah, and the
right?
good news is, I think that you don't need to rip out your existing systems and start from scratch and bring in an AI tool because many modern EPM tools like Board and Power BI that we demo today already have AI capabilities built in, and we're seeing more and more of it coming, right?
And it's not just about having the tools, it's about making sure that they're configured to support AI. So basically, are they scalable? For instance, does your current system handle the scale of data required for AI? That's a good question to ask. And then also, if they're basically able to integrate with AI platforms, another thing to consider.
And if I may add a question that I see time and time again is really valuable is to ask if the tools you have are user friendly enough for your team to adopt without a steep learning curve. That will definitely go a long way to helping individuals to adopt it and enjoying to use it.
Okay, and then I think we probably can't emphasize this enough in general, but so AI is not going to be a magic button you're going to just push and it's going to solve all your problems overnight. It is a tool. And like any tool, its value depends on how you're going to end up using it. So before you even start thinking about all of these components we talked about, data, people, and technology, the first thing is to ask yourself, what is the actual problem we're trying to solve and what opportunity are we trying to unlock with it?
Yeah, so I'll just recap that because the webinar is coming to an end soon, and I think that was quite a mouthful. So we've said data, make sure it's clean, accessible, centralized. Centralized helps a lot. On people, we said empower them with knowledge and training and a clear understanding of how AI will support their work. And for technology, just ensure you have the right tools to integrate AI into your workflows effectively. And of course, we as BIOS can help you there as well. And what we also like to do from BIOS with our advisory capacity is to start with the overarching question, what is the value you're trying to create? What is the pain point you're trying to solve? Go for it, at it from that angle. Okay.
And remember, it's a journey, not a one-time project, and it's not going to be a overnight one-time project either. And you don't have to be perfect to start at the same time. So it's about focusing on progress over perfection, small steps. Maybe start with cleaning up the data set or introducing your team to simple AI tool, and the rest can fall in place.
Well, I hope the framework's been helpful for you to think about where your team stands, and I hope that the demos have given you some inspiration to use some tools out there, and just our general discussion. We really enjoyed thinking about it ourselves, what we think about AI and where it could be used, and sharing that with you today. So if you have any further questions, the chat will be open for a while still, so you can pop it in there and we'll reach out to you. You also feel free to contact us if you want to hear more about our services. These are our email addresses, but there's also a general one to BIOS. You can definitely follow our LinkedIn. We like to post some interesting knowledge articles from time to time, and of course our website.
Yeah, that's
So
it. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Oh yeah, there's a little survey at the end here, so please, we'll appreciate it if you complete, but yeah, up to you. Anyways, thank you very much, everyone, and we'll come back to everyone that's asked us questions in the chat. So thanks and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.